Hello everyone and welcome to QualityOldHomm. Today we are making the first tier list in Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era, the demo version, and these are kind of the, let's say, initial impressions of the units. And they are based on a couple of playthroughs with Temple faction and additionally to one unit tests where all of these units face the same opponents and how well they performed over there. But without further ado, let's begin. First we have tier 1 units, swordsmen. I mean, they kind of feel the basic infantry unit, relatively slow, relatively low initiative. What's nice about them is the shield that kind of blocks some of the incoming missiles, so yeah, but otherwise not really great feeling unit. Then we have guard captains, the upgraded variant. I mean, double strike is always nice, so there is that going for them, and besides they look much cooler than these basic variant. And then we have Sun's Aegis. They don't have the double strike, but they have somewhat improved stats compared to these two, and in the test they actually performed better than the double strike variant, so that's the reason I'm giving them higher tier than the guard captains. Then let's move to tier 2. First we have crossbowmen. I mean, it feels kind of a solid missile unit. Takes range penalties in a map, but otherwise, I mean, solid unit. The growth is rather nice. It seems you can find quite a lot of the creature dwellings on the map, so you can amass the numbers quite nicely, as well as for these tier 1 units. But overall, I mean, a solid unit for the Temple faction. Then we have our Stringer, pretty much the crossbowmen, except they have double hit, and that's really nice, as always in the games, double hit units. And for the Austringers, they don't even take the retaliation that melee units do, so even better. Of course, the limitation is that they do suffer from range penalties, so they shine against targets at close proximity. But of course there is the risk that the enemy comes too close. But otherwise, as the growth is rather nice and you get the creature dwellings, the numbers for these units get high, and that's really nice for the damage amount they can deal. And then the final upgrade, marksmen. And I'm going to give them S tier. And the reasoning is, even though they have only single shot, they don't have any range penalties. So basically sharpshooters of this game. And as one tries to use ranged units to maximum effectiveness from as far as possible, I think these guys shine, and especially in castle defenses, they do really, really great. So S tier from me. Then we have Griffins, and I have to say, these are kind of disappointment for me. So in the unit test, they actually performed worse than the upgraded variants of tier 1 and 2 units. Their speed is not really that great. 2 retaliations is nice, but since you cannot pair these with, for example, Archangel Resurrection, since Archangels don't have the resurrection, I'm going to give these D. I don't really like them that much. Of course, tier 3 units available rather early, but still, I'm not liking them too much. But I think the upgraded variants are quite a bit better than these. The speed is greater, unlimited retaliation, and the units even seem to survive a bit better. So I'm going to give these guys some mid-B tier for both of them. So this seems to be, based on the test, a bit better than this one, but really not that much difference. So I think solid B tier for both of them. So these were Temple Griffin and Guardian Griffin. Then we have Lightweaver, another missile unit for Temple, kind of feels like a monk variant from Home 3, and it kind of feels relatively solid unit, but not really shining among other units, so perhaps low B. And then these upgrades Hierophant and Sun Herald. They can do damage, and of course the upgrades are nice, but in my playthroughs the alchemical dust was a bit of an issue. And I'm not sure if I would want to spend it, at least in the earlier stages or in the mid-game, to upgrade these into these upgraded variants. So I'm going to give these only C tier. Perhaps the abilities are nice, but otherwise, I don't know. They don't strike me as really useful units. And another disappointment, in my opinion, perhaps I'm comparing them to those Cavaliers or Champions of Homm 3, and of course these are 1 tier lower units, but still, in my opinion, Cavalry is a disappointment. Once again, they are actually performing worse than these tier 4 units, and they are tier 5, so I kind of get a feeling that Cavalry is about, and the upgraded variants are about speed, but not that much else. And since Initiative is different from speed in this game, the speed isn't quite as important as it was, for example, in Homm 3. So these units kind of feel underpowered, and I think the jousting bonus isn't even working at the moment. And based on these, I will give Cavalry relatively low C tier. And the only reason keeping it from D tier is that I don't have to waste alchemical dust for the unit, or for the building to get the upgraded variants. And even though these two units look good and cool, the alchemical dust spent for that extra speed and not that much more, I don't think that's really worth it. So D tier from me. Feel free to disagree in the comments if you feel so. Then let's get to perhaps the coolest units of the game, and of course the highest tier, so tier 6. First we have Inquisitors, and especially in the mission playthroughs, I found these units really useful. It seems they can tank really a lot, and especially in Homm 3, it seems that lower tier units in high enough numbers can do really well against high tier units. But in this game, I think the difference between lower tier and higher tier units is much bigger. So these guys or girls can tank enormous amount of damage. They don't have really high speed, but they also lash out quite a bit of damage. And for that, I will give them S tier. They are quite easily available too, in my opinion. So S tier. And then we have these Mother Superior and Excommunicators. Both look really cool, but once again there is that alchemical dust that gives some extra abilities, a bit more movement speed, a bit more initiative, etc, etc. But I think still that this basic Inquisitor is somewhat better than these. So these will go to A tier because of the higher requirements, and these are quite a bit more easily available in the game, so that's the reasoning for S tier for them. Then let's move to tier 7. First we have Angels, and I have to say that I really like this unit. High initiative, and they kind of feel like Titans of Homm 3. So ranged attack, tier 7 unit, and as there is this mechanic that makes higher level creatures even more powerful compared to low level creatures, as in Homm 3, I think they clearly deserve a place in S tier. And then we have Archangels. These are kind of Titans on steroids, or marksman Titans of Homm 3. So basically no range penalties, they hit hard, they can take punishment, they have high initiative, they have relatively cool abilities. So, in my opinion, clearly the best, by far the best unit in Temple roster, despite the upgraded Radiant Forge costing 100 alchemical dust, which is quite a lot. So, really nice. And then we have the last Apotheosis, kind of, as there are two different upgrades for each tier unit, these guys don't have the sniper ability or no range penalty. They are the fastest unit in Temple roster, but despite all of that, they do perform worse against shooters than Archangels. Even though if they go to melee, they will suffer casualties. So if you compare that you can get Archangels from the upgraded Radiant Forts, I don't see any reason why one would want to have these where they apotheosis. Yeah. So, since they are so much better. But then again, that's not a bad unit. It's really good unit, but Archangels are so much better that it kind of outshines these, put these to shadow. But yeah, that's my view of kind of the initial view of the units of Heroes Olden Era demo. And based on the initial impressions, and one of the reasons for this tier list is to try to create discussion about unit balancing. So feel free to comment, do you agree or disagree, and feel free also to ground why do you agree or disagree, and perhaps we can collect some nice feedback for the devs to balance the units further in the game. And thank you very much for watching. If you like the content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Have a great rest of the day. QualityOldHomm out.